Good morning, everyone. I'm Erin Williams. I am the Director of Outreach at Palo Alto University. I'm so happy to see so many people this morning. A little bit about Palo Alto University. We were formerly Pacific Graduate School of Psychology. We started in 1975. I like that time because a lot of faculty that are still here remind me of the beanbag days. So some of you people may be a little young to know about beanbags, but they had class on beanbags. So that's a fun fact about PAU. I have been here this year. It will be 23 years. I've been a happy member of the PAU staff and admissions, and it was wonderful to be at APA this year to see some of our alumni and the amazing work they're doing. So just to let you know, at the end of this journey, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and Dr. Arno will share that with you as you learn more about the program this morning. So I really encourage you to ask questions. Elena will go over the admissions process today. It is, when we say it's a 5-year, possible 6-year journey, I know that sounds like a lot, but honestly and truthfully, it goes by a lot quicker than you think. So I probably have met some of you prior to open house, so welcome. Thank you for stopping by. And I want to say good morning to Tanya, my colleague, my new colleague. So I'm going to let Elena and Dr. Arnaud take it over, and I'll be answering any questions I can in the chat.
Thank you, Erin. So the plan for today, oh, there's Tanya. Tanya is our newest admissions counselor, so she is joining our team. The plan for today is to talk at you a little bit. We're going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and then we will have time at the end for other questions. We are recording the session, so if you need to leave to go to the MA in Counseling session, that's totally fine. We will make this recording available to you later. We also, if you just really enjoy sitting and meeting with us on Zoom, we have 3 more of these events. So if you want to come back, you're welcome to, or you could go to one of the other sessions at the next event as well. Feel free to ask questions in the chat. Dr. Arnaud generally keeps an eye on the chat as she's talking, but we will also make sure to answer any chat questions either via chat or we will read them out for everyone to hear. Okay, so I am going to share my screen and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Arnaud to introduce ourselves.
Thank you, Elena and Erin. As you all heard, my name is Geneviève Arnaud, and I am the Director of Clinical Training for the PhD program. Sorry, let me just get my screen set up so that I can see all the black boxes with the names and the Zoom screen. Okay, now I can see. So anyway, I am the Director of Clinical Training for the PhD program, and what that actually means is I am the program director. So I oversee all of the activities in the program, and I also oversee the internship placement. The internship is the final kind of capstone experience of any clinical or counseling psychology doctoral program, where you complete a full year of clinical training, the 2,000-hour full-time experience. I am assisted by a lovely group. Dr. Sita Patel and Dr. Jan Haybarth are Associate Directors of Academic and Research Training. So they oversee coursework, competency exams, research labs. And then Dr. John Leduc is the Assistant Director of Clinical Training, who oversees the practicum. And those are the clinical training experiences that students have prior to internship while they're taking classes and working on their dissertation. I just want to note that I have a PsyD and a PhD, so I am familiar with both models of training. We do have some information available about PsyD versus PhD if you have questions about that. But there are differences in the 2 types of training that I think are important to pay attention to, because some of you may also be considering PsyD programs. And clearly I have one of those degrees, so I have a lot of respect for those programs as well. Let's see what's on the next page. Well, Erin already told you that the PAU was founded in 1975. I'm sure most of you were not born at that point. So it's been here for a while. We've got about 1,200 students across 6 psychology and counseling programs. There are 2 bachelor's programs, 2 master's programs, and 2 doctoral programs, the PsyD and the PhD. The 2 master's programs are the MS in psychology and the MA in counseling psychology. PAU is focused on a lot of things, but what we're really pinpointing here is the quality of our training. We are a unique university in that we're focused solely on mental health topics and mental health training. So we have a lot of resources that are going to that training. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are very important values in our program, and also student success. We are committed to making sure that our students get through our programs. They can be daunting, and doctoral programs are a lot of work. And so we have an Office of Student Success to assist students with making it through the program. All of our programs, though the university is accredited by WASC, which is for the entire university, the PhD program and the PsyD as well are both accredited by the American Psychological Association. And the counseling program is accredited by an association called CAPE-CREP. We offer residential and distance learning programs. And this is an interesting topic in the COVID times, because pre-COVID we had very distinct remote and residential programs. The PhD program is accredited as a residential program. And by that, we don't mean that you're coming here and living in dorms, but simply that you're coming here and you're in person in classes, you're in person seeing clients. We have a fully remote MS program, and I believe Elena will be talking with you about that program. And part of the MA in counseling program is fully remote. There are kind of 2 tracks for that. But the PhD program is, in fact, a residential program. And although we have been primarily online for the last 2 years, we are moving back into the classrooms this year. And in addition, in order to do clinical training in our program, you have to be physically located in California for the supervision. We do have an international and domestic student population as well. So we've got students coming from all over the place, which is always a really nice part of our community. And let's see the next slide. Do you want to take this one on, Elena?
Yeah, so this is just our little plug for something we feel like we do really well, which is looking at the intersections of technology and mental health. And so this is just a snapshot of some of the things that we do in that space. So you see 5 of our faculty members, and plus Dr. Cameron, who is our provost, who have an area of research interest in this field. And then along the bottom, you see some of the highlights of the programmatic pieces that we do as well. So we have the eClinic, which is sort of an online mental health clinic hosted by the MA in Counseling program. We offer a Foundations in Digital Mental Health certificate, and that's through Concept, which is our continuing education branch of the university. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Of course, we are located in the heart of Silicon Valley, so lots of potential for partnerships with tech companies and other folks who are doing really cool, innovative things, in the AI space and delivery space. We also have a series called the Superstar Psychologists in Technology, and you can find recordings of those sessions, the prior sessions, on our YouTube page. Really interesting stuff that folks are doing in that space. And then finally, our brand new technology and mental health concentration in the MS in psychology. And we'll go a little more in depth into that as we talk about the MS. Back to you.
You know, Elaine, I just realized that I should have asked you to add onto that slide Dr. Charlotte Beard, who's just joining us this year. We have a new faculty hire. She also does a lot of mental health-based applications and is very interested in the same kinds of things that were shown on the prior slide. We have 2 primary locations. We have our main campus. It's called the Alan Calvin campus. Alan Calvin was the president of PAU for 30-something years. Erin, you can probably tell me the exact number. And that's in Palo Alto. It's a lovely campus. If any of you have seen it, you know that it's just borders on a preserve. And so I can look out my window and see horses.
I think he was the president for 34 years, Genevieve.
34, yeah, amazing. So this campus is named after him. We also have a clinic, our own in-house training clinic that serves individuals in the community. It's in Mountain View. We've just moved into a new facility, so they're finishing that up. There are classrooms there as well. There are 3 classrooms on the Allen Kelvin campus, and there will be classrooms also in Mountain View. So they're about probably 15 minutes apart, but there is not a shuttle between them. So you would have to be aware that you might have to be taking classes at 2 different places. We do also have the capacity to be fully online if needed. We have Zoom capacity for a whole variety of classes. And we also have HighFlex. So last year I taught a HighFlex class where we had some people in the classroom and some people who were online. Again, we're planning to be fully in person this year, but we have that capacity in case we have another public health emergency. I think, at this stage, when you're going to open houses and learning about programs, it can feel very daunting to choose the right program. And some of the questions that I think are important to ask are listed here on the slide. First of all, what are your goals? Are you interested in doing therapy or research? Do you want to teach? Do you want to do assessment or psychological testing or case management? If you want to do research or have an academic career, you definitely will want doctoral level training. But if you're somebody who knows that what you really want to do for your career is to spend a lot of time in practice conducting therapy, you may actually be better off doing a master's level program because a majority of the people who are providing those kinds of services are master's level. And given that a doctorate is a minimum of a 5-year commitment, it really does make sense to be thinking about maybe starting at a master's level as well. Also, if you're interested in case management or social services, this probably is not the right program for you. That would be more of a social work kind of program. Counseling is also another possible avenue for you because there you'd be working with individuals and families, again, primarily doing therapy. And then in terms of PsyD or PhD, a PhD is typically more research focused. Now you'll see when we get to the other slides that this particular PhD program actually is more balanced in terms of research and clinical training than many PhD programs are. But if you're somebody who knows you're not as interested in research, then you might want to be looking into PsyD programs. There you'll learn how to do therapy, but you'll also have a good focus on assessment and psychological testing, which is something that most master's level clinicians do not provide. You typically need supervision if you're going to be doing that. Let's see. Okay, back to you, Elena.
Right. I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about our MS program. So it's an MS in psychology program. And the first thing to know is that it's not a license eligible degree. So if you want to see clients, this degree will not allow you to do that, but it is a great option for a variety of reasons. For some folks who want a terminal degree, meaning, just the master's degree, and who want to maybe go into research or teaching at the community college level, working in media or education, healthcare, all kinds of different fields, the terminal degree can be a great option. We'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. The other option is what we call PhD prep. And so the PhD prep program is essentially the first year of the PhD program split over 2 years. So students go part-time, it's entirely online, and it's designed for students to sort of ease into a PhD program. And that can be either here at PAU or externally at another institution. The idea is that sometimes students just aren't ready to jump into a PhD program. Maybe you've been out of school for a while, maybe you just want to brush up on your academic skills, or it might be that you need to sort of slowly disengage from your obligations, meaning maybe you work, you have kids, and you want to sort of ramp up to going to school full time. So the PhD prep track is a great option for that. You can see that the three tracks there, three concentrations, are PhD prep, which is 7 quarters plus the summer, and is 47 units. And then there are 2 other concentrations, one in forensic psychology and one in technology and mental health. And that's that brand new one that we just launched. Both of those are 6 quarters and are fewer units, and you do end up with your MS in psychology there. I do want to note that admission to the PhD program is not guaranteed. So if you are in the PhD prep track, you do need to do well in the program, and you need to apply to the PhD program. So it's not a guaranteed pathway, but it is designed for students who intend to transfer to our PhD or to another PhD elsewhere. So it is an online format. So regardless of what concentration you are in courses online, and our online courses are live. So just like we're today in a Zoom room interacting, your classes will be in a live Zoom room using breakout rooms and other technology to really make sure that you're engaged. Classes are at least 90 minutes long, and they're generally in the evenings. So if you're on the East Coast or you are an international student, you are welcome to participate, but just keep in mind it might be quite late for you if you are also needing to get up early in the morning to work. You take 2 or 3 classes per quarter. So that's half time for us. So it's still financially eligible. And there is an expectation that for every 1 unit you're taking, there's about 3 hours of coursework. So that's really important because you need to sort of mentally assess, on top of being in class, do I have enough time in my schedule to do the reading and the projects and the assignments and that sort of thing. It is generally designed to be a cohort model, which means that you move together through your courses, and you'll sort of branch out once you decide which of those concentrations that you're in. So this sort of maps out the course sequence. Oops, excuse me, it's too excited. So you can see that basically the first year for everyone is the same. And then as you get into the end of the first year, you begin to make your decision about which of the concentrations you want to be in. The PhD prep does require you to pass comps before you can interview for the program. You do also summer transition courses before you start the PhD in the second year. For the other 2 concentrations, tech and mental health and forensic psychology, the tech and mental health electives start in spring of year 1. That's our recommendation. Forensic psychology are 2 courses, and those start in the second year. So you'll sort of have about a year to think about what is it that you want to do. Do you want to try the PhD prep, or do you want to do one of the terminal degrees if you're not sure upon beginning the program? The tech and mental health concentration we're really excited about, and this again is an area of expertise for PAU. So you in those elective courses are learning about which digital tools are effective, and that is based on data and research. So learning about what tools are effective in mental health interventions online. And then the second half of the courses are about creating digital tools. So we're just at the beginning of this, this space opening up. And so how do you build tools that are effective from a psychological sciences perspective? And this looks at sort of learning science, and design, user experience. So this track can be really helpful either in the mental health space or in the technology space, like working for Google and user experience, things like that. And then there's also an optional internship, and there are 3 options listed there. The VA mobile app division at the Palo Alto VA, our in-house e-clinic, and other technology research labs. So really exciting opportunities to get hands-on experience. We also mentioned Concept, which is our continuing education arm. Current students can take classes for free from Concept, so we really encourage you to supplement your coursework in the MS with these kind of amazing continuing education programs, so you can get a certificate on top of your degree as you complete the 2-year degree. And you can find more on their website. The forensic psychology, the 2 courses are listed here, and this is sort of designed for folks who maybe want to work as a parole officer, some sort of non-licensed role in criminal justice system. And then, of course, you can supplement also with concept courses. There's a huge number of forensic-related supplemental courses you can take in concept, and so this is really exciting. Really of an area of expertise for us within concept. So again, a great way to supplement the coursework with live hands-on or recorded sessions. And I'll turn it back to Dr. Arnaud to continue with the PhD.
Great, thanks. So the PhD program is designed to be a 5 to 6 year full-time program. And I'll explain in a little bit about why we say 5 to 6 years. There's a little bit of flexibility in there. The model, as I mentioned before, is different from most PhD models. It's a practitioner-scientist model. Many traditional PhD programs are scientist-practitioner in that they are training primarily for you to be a scientist, a researcher first, and a practitioner second. And then many traditional PsyD programs are practitioner scholar, meaning that you're a practitioner first, and then you are somebody who understands, appreciates, and can critique research as a scholar, but aren't somebody who does a lot of research. And so we've blended those 2 terms to make that into the practitioner-scientist model, where we are really trying to balance clinical training and research training. As a result, I will say that our students are busy. It is a demanding program. However, as you'll also see by our statistics, our APA statistics, we're extremely good at placing students in APA accredited internships. We had a 99% match rate last year, and actually I think the year before, and 100% I think every year prior to that. So it's an excellent foundational training that you get here, and it is somewhat unique. Let's go to the next slide. In terms of choosing a PhD program, part of what you want to be thinking about is, what is your experience to date? So not only what are you looking for, what do you want to do, but what have you done to this point? Because we try to balance clinical and research training, we also will look for people who've had some experience with clinical work and research. Now, that does not mean that everybody who comes in has both of those or has a lot of both of those, but we do want to see that you have some clear interest and experience in at least one of them. And we also are looking for students who have interest in both, as well as students who are committed to values of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We also think that students who come here with more than one very narrow interest in a clinical area will probably have an easier time making it through the program, for the specific reason that you do not come here knowing that you will definitely work with a specific faculty member. And some PhD programs actually do accept you right directly into a lab at the time of application or admission. We don't do that here. You don't get accepted into a lab until the end of your first year. So if you have more than one very narrow interest, you're likely to find many people you'd be interested in working with and have ideas for lots of interesting research projects, and will probably fare better in a program like this. In terms of research and clinical practice, some of the things that support that are our faculty. We have faculty who are very productive researchers and who work in a variety of areas all across psychology, as you'll see from our areas of emphasis. The research labs are designed to provide mentorship and training. So even before you are accepted into a research lab at the end of the first year, you can volunteer in a lab so that you get to see what different faculty are doing. That's not a guarantee. Not every single faculty member would say, yes, everybody in the incoming class can sit in my lab, because, you know, they can't have that many, but you certainly would have a very good chance of being able to observe or volunteer or find out about what people are doing in their research labs. Another important aspect is that our students are actually required to conduct their own research. They complete a dissertation, and in addition, they're expected to conduct research along the way for publication, presentation, and so forth. So that's actually a requirement for graduation, that you have produced your own research or have participated in peer-reviewed research. Clinically, that's supported by didactic coursework, and same thing for research. We have a lot of research coursework that you'll be taking. You would start off with clinical work and supervision at our in-house training clinic. We also have professional advising, meaning we have people dedicated to be assisting you in several ways. Not only Dr. Lidek and I are here, but when it comes time for applying for internship, every single individual applicant is assigned to what we call a faculty internship advisor, and that's either a faculty member or someone in the community who works for several months with the applicant on their application materials individually. So there's a fair amount of mentorship there. We have external practica that students do in their third and typically in their fourth year. And as I said, students are very competitive for practica, internship, and postdocs. Go to the next slide. Now, this is what the 5-year curriculum looks like, and I'll explain a 6-year curriculum after we get through this. In the first year, you would go through didactic coursework, and those are all required classes. At the end of the first year, apply for a research lab where you would be matched in spring of your first year. In the summer of your first year, you would begin clinical training in our Gronowski Center, and that's about 10 hours a week, and typically anywhere, we say 2 to 3 clients here, but in the last couple of years, it's actually increased, which is a really good thing. It's typically now around 6 or 7 clients weekly. That's a good thing because it gives you a lot more experience. It's also a good thing because what we've found is that with telehealth, we've actually had far more clients who are able to actually come into the clinic. People who were maybe in rural areas before, who couldn't drive to come in, are getting served. So we have had an increase in the number of clients due to the pandemic. And although we will be returning to in-person clinical work, certainly by the time any of you would be training there, we will probably likely always keep a telehealth component because that has opened up a lot of mental health services. In the second year, you would continue with your didactic coursework and also start your research lab training with the lab that you matched with in your first year. During that year, you take assessment and therapy-focused courses, and you continue on with 3 more terms of clinical training in the Gronowski Center. In the third year, you finish up your didactic classes. At this point, you're typically taking electives. Sometimes students take electives in year 2. Many of them wait until year 3 to take the electives. You're required to take the equivalent of 18 units of electives, which is typically 6 of them. You continue your research lab training and start developing your dissertation. At that point, you're in a clinical practicum out in the community, and we have an interesting process whereby you're matched for that. I'll spend a moment explaining that. If we jump ahead to internship, there's something called APIC. That's that year-long experience that all the students do before they graduate with their doctorate. There is a comparable parallel process called BAPIC, Bay Area Practicum Information Collective, I believe. And that's a process whereby the schools in the Bay Area are in this consortium, and all of the schools work with all of the sites in the area to go through an application, an interview, and then matching process. You actually submit your rankings for your practicum site for year 3, and there's a computer matching as there is for the internship. It's actually the same people who developed that, and that's one of the reasons I think training in the Bay Area is really exciting, because there are a huge number, as you'll see in a moment, of clinical training sites that are possible. You also take your oral competency exam and work toward proposing your dissertation either during your 3rd year or in the first term of your 4th year. And then you earn an MS in clinical psychology. Now notice this is different from the MS program where you earn an MS in psychology, not in clinical psychology. And then in year 4, you complete and defend your dissertation. You're completing typically an external practicum experience, and you apply for internship, which is in itself at least a course worth of effort over several terms. The 5th year is that 2,000-hour, 12-month internship. If you haven't completed your dissertation, you complete it, and then you graduate. Now, where would the 6th year come in there? Sometimes students decide they would like to take an extra year. That's most common in, say, the neuropsych emphasis, where students need relatively specialized training and where they have to make sure that they get all of the correct coursework in. Other students sometimes get really excited about some of the research that they're doing, and they want to spend a little bit more time finishing up a research project and getting a publication for it. Other times students decide that they want to slow down because they might have gotten married or had a child or something like that. And so they've decided that 6 years is a better path for them. In those cases, it depends on what they've slowed down on. In a lot of cases, they have the coursework finished, but they might take longer in between year 3 and year 4 of getting their research, their dissertation proposed because they're finishing up other research or they're finishing up their neuropsych coursework. In most cases, after graduation, and I say most cases because this is based on which state you're going to get licensed in, students have to take a postdoctoral year. That's either a residency where they complete a certain number of hours, 1,500 hours typically, 1,500 to 2,000, or a formal postdoc, which is kind of like a formal internship, but at a more advanced level. And this is where you really get kind of specialized. My area of specialty is forensics, and I did a forensic internship, and then I did a very intensive forensic postdoc afterwards. And licensing criteria depend on state. Some states do require postdocs, some states do not. That's something you would have to take a look at. All states require the EPPP, which is a licensing exam. All right, let's see what we've got on the next slide. This is an overview of the research labs that we have. As you can see, we have a huge variety here. It would, frankly, if I were in your shoes, it would be difficult for me to pick because I find a lot of these things pretty fascinating. And also we have areas of emphasis. We have a new one this year, which is listed last on the list, health psychology. There is also pediatric behavioral healthcare, which is not just working with children and families. It's focused often on families in institutional and healthcare settings, perhaps in hospitals, children with illness, really focused more on that kind of experience. Diversity and community mental health, and we also, by the way, have an affiliated internship associated with that. Where we have 2 of our students who can train at Marin County at the internship for their last year. Forensic psychology, LGBTQ+ psychology, neuropsychology, and the psychology of trauma. The emphasis is not required, however. All students, no matter whether you're in an area of emphasis or not, are required to take 18 elected units of coursework. And typically, if you're in an area of emphasis, you'll be taking electives in your area of emphasis. Let's see, there's a question here that says, does the PhD coursework include all coursework required to be licensed in the state of California? It includes all academic coursework, anything that APA requires that we teach. Some of our elective classes count for some of the additional requirements that the state of California has. For example, if you take the alcohol use class, it may be that there is, for example, a suicide component now that is required by the state of California, and we do not have a class in that. Question about how easy is it to get the classes you want and need? It's there are two answers to that. The first answer is it is relatively easy to get all the classes you need because we know that you have to have them, and so you have to take them in a certain order. So for example, the first year classes are all the required classes for first year. Nobody in upper level class years would be taking those. So it's just the first year people who are trying to get into them. What is not necessarily easy is getting the specific section of it that you want. For example, I'm teaching a 5-week class this term, and there are 2 sections of it that are taught on a Friday and 1 section that's taught on a Saturday. And you can imagine that most people don't want to come in on a Saturday. So they try to get the Friday class. Some people actually prefer to come in on a Saturday because the parking's not an issue, the traffic's not an issue, they don't have to worry about a lot of other things. And they actually like to sign up for those classes. In terms of the electives, some of them are reserved only for people in the area of emphasis. So for example, if you're interested in neuropsych, you cannot take that class unless you're in the area of emphasis. So there's a lot of nuances, Emma, to the question that you're asking. Let's see. Yes, Erin, thank you so much for answering some of those. Okay, let's see. I mentioned the Gronowski Center. I do want to say that there are actually 2 specialty clinics within our Gronowski Center. We have La Clínica Latina, where the students are serving Spanish-speaking clients. And then we have the Sexual and Gender Identities Clinic. Both of those clinics are full. They're thriving. They're actually very exciting clinics. And we also have, through Dr. Matt Cordova's research lab, the Early Intervention Clinic, where students work with children and families who have experienced trauma. And then we see the whole age range of other clients that you would see at a community mental health center. In terms of our commitment to diversity, first, I'm also very excited to say that we have a new assistant provost, part of whose job is really to be focusing on this area and to be making sure that we have safe places for students to go and be, and people to talk with, and a system for reporting any concerns that they have. But we also have a lot of really proactive student groups and other activities on campus. You may have heard that we have recently been affirmed as a Hispanic serving institution. So we do have a commitment to making sure that our Latinx students receive support, and also that we serve those individuals in the community, as you saw from our clinic, La Clínica Latina. We have a variety of other student identity groups, as you can see listed here, and we have a fair number of people who are doing research in that area. We also have a Center for Excellence in Diversity, which is kind of a clearinghouse for research that's conducted in this area. We also have pretty exceptional faculty, and some of them are listed here. This is by no means all of them. Dr. Bunge, who's in the top middle, he is the director of the MS program. So if you're interested in the MS program, that is him there. He is also a faculty member in the PhD program and does work with children and adolescents. And he's one of the faculty who does work on mental health-based apps. We have Dr. Friedberg in the bottom middle, who oversees our pediatric behavioral health care, very knowledgeable about that area. His students do extremely well in the internship match. And then Dr. Munoz in the top left there, who is also one of the people who's working on the Eye for Health and mental health-based apps, and a variety of other individuals who are very, very productive in their research. And we also have really, really great students. I love our students. I'm sure that if you have questions, Elena will be able to get you in touch with any of the students. These are just some examples of some of the kind of work that they have done. We do, as I said, require that students do research work. We have a number of students who have received awards and fellowships, and our students are very, very active. PhD graduates do a wide variety of jobs, and I'm not sure that we actually have in this slide set a listing of all the clinical training possibilities, but I do want to mention that we have over actually, I think 70 different sites that students can train in. First, we have the Palo Alto VA that reserves about 30 slots for our students with everything from neuropsych and gerontology and inpatient work to we have students working in schools, in correctional settings, in community mental health centers, in college counseling centers. We just have them in a huge variety of different placements all across the Bay Area. Our students, our graduates are working in VAs, in state hospitals, in community mental health agencies, private practice, the military, integrative healthcare, you name it, they are working there. And we have some who actually also are doing research and academics. We do have the possibility for students to do a training in how to teach and to get experience in teaching classes in the undergraduate or MS program. O'Brien, you anticipated what I was going to say. So yes, there are not so much teaching in the PhD program, but teaching while you are in the PhD program in other programs. But there are also opportunities for you to be teaching assistants in the PhD program. Let's see. I think I'm going to turn this over to you, Elaine.
Yeah, thank you. So just briefly want to touch on admissions requirements. All of this is on the website, and you can reference it in much more detail there. But I do want to point out admissions requirements for the PhD and the MS are basically the same. There are 4 prerequisite courses, which you can see on the website. We need a resume or CV, a statement of purpose, 3 letters of recommendation, and those need to be from either faculty or professional folks. That might be someone who supervised you in a volunteer setting, perhaps. We cannot accept personal references, and we will not accept references from your own psychologist or counselor, family member, mom or dad or auntie. They should be folks who've seen you in a more formal setting. And then, of course, official transcripts from any college or university that you've attended. We have an early consideration deadline for the PhD, which is December 1st, and then regular consideration is January 8th. You may have heard about PAU in the past doing rolling admissions. We're not doing that anymore. So you really do want to apply by January 8th. If we have space available, we may keep the application open later than that, but please do aim to get your application in by January 8th so you can get full consideration of the application. We are also test blind for 22-23. That means that we do not require the GRE, and even if you send it, no one will look at it. So that is not required, and you can save your money in sending those scores to us. For the MS later deadlines, so priority application deadline is late April, and then regular deadline is in August. So here's the basic PhD admissions timeline. So the application is going to open very soon, in about a week. We use SciCast, which is a centralized application service. And so you can apply to us and other schools using SciCast. That means you send everything to SciCast. All of your transcripts, everything goes to SciCast, and SciCast then shares it with us. So please don't send us any transcripts directly. We have the early deadlines there, regular deadlines there, which we just talked about. We are going to ask you to get all materials in by January 22nd. So you need to hit submit on the application by January 8th and get all of your materials in no later than January 22nd. Now, again, if your materials are not in January 22nd, it doesn't mean that you're out of luck, but it does mean after that point, we begin to fill up our interview days. So we won't review your application until all the materials are in. So you need to make sure that all your materials in, so you again get full opportunity to be applied, considered for the interviews. Interview weekends span late January to mid-March, and there was a question about interviews. Yeah, interviews for us are virtual. We started doing them during COVID, and it worked really well. So we do the interviews virtually. It's kind of 2 days, so it's a big weekend, but they are available virtually. Our Admitted Students Day, however, is in person. We will stream some of the events, but that is an on-campus event. And then we ask you to deposit or confirm your enrollment by April 15th. There's no actual monetary deposit, but we will have you let us know if you're coming or not by April 15th. The MS in Psychology does use rolling admissions, so once your application is complete, we review it and then offer you an interview at that point. And then we encourage you to learn more. So in October, we haven't picked the dates yet, but we will have what we call a deep dive. And that is, if you're feeling kind of anxious about the application, we will literally walk you through page by page of the SciCast application, showing you how it works, what you should submit. We also have recordings of these available on YouTube, so you can watch last year's. Not much has changed. And we do also offer one-on-one counselor appointment with folks like me or Erin or Tanya if you just need some extra help, or if you are not sure if you should apply to the MA in counseling or the PhD in clinical psych. We're happy to have those conversations to help you decide what the best fit for you is. And we're to questions. So we will open the floor to any questions. You're welcome to raise your hand using the function at the bottom of your screen, or to type them into the chat. And anyone is welcome.
Looks like there was a question about the GRE.
I see.
For a year ahead of now.
Okay.
I answered that one.
Oh, you did. Yeah, I mean, we don't know yet. It's going to be up to the faculty to decide. So you may want to consider the GRE if you're looking at schools that you know will be requiring the GRE. It's kind of one of those things where it may be better to have it even if you don't need it. But we probably will not know. We generally decide in early spring about the following year. What's life like on campus? Are there many opportunities for community building and activities to get closer to classmates? I will answer that, but maybe I will ask Genevieve to give her opinion too. I don't have any students on board. So PAU to me feels like a small campus, right? We're a very close-knit community. We're only 1,200 students, but many of those students are online. So this is not a place where you can be anonymous. People will know you. The president's going to give you a hug at some point, because that's the kind of place that we are. There are a lot of opportunities for students to get involved in clubs and organizations. There's a very robust set of clubs, and there's also student government that students can get involved in as well. And I think students just spend a lot of time with each other, study groups, many of them are roommates. So it is, I think, a very caring place. But Dr. Arno, what's your view on that? What do you observe about kind of the student experience?
Yeah, and this is my third year as director of clinical training, and those 2 years have been mostly virtual. So I think that whatever we say, take with a grain of salt, because things have changed. I would say that students form very close ties within their own cohort year, as well as with students who share similar interests. So there is pretty much a student group for any interest that you have on campus. Students do study groups. The library has rooms where students can study together. The library has remained open throughout the whole pandemic so that students could be in on campus. And I will also say, though, that something to be thinking about with a program like this is not like a 7 to 9 person cohort in a traditional PhD program. I have been in one of those programs, and I was also in a much larger PsyD program. And what I noticed is that in the larger program, there was a lot more opportunity to find people who felt like a really great fit for me as a community. And at the same time, no faculty member walked up to me and said, "Hey, I've been waiting for you. I'm ready here to mentor you." Because here you would want to be taking a proactive approach to finding who will be a good mentor for you. You want to find a good research lab match, and you will be more likely to find that if you're somebody who starts connecting with faculty from the time that you get here. Go to different research labs, set up an appointment with somebody and just talk to them about what their research is, that kind of thing. So there's absolutely the opportunity for community, and I think that each student needs to actively be a part of that.
Thank you, Dr. Can you address, Michaela had a question about working with the NSF in case they get an NSF-GRFP. I don't even know if I know what that is.
I'm assuming that's the National Science Foundation. I don't know what the GRFP is. Is it Michaela? I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly. Would you mind unmuting?
Correct. Sorry, it's for definitely National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program, and yeah, they do allow clinical psych majors to apply, but the research is not so much intervention based. I think it would be more like where to implement inventions by doing like more, I guess, like psychological studies. So I was just wondering if we were offered that fellowship. I was wondering if you work with them.
I would assume so. I think you would just want to have a research mentor who was doing work in that area, but I wouldn't see any reason not to. We have had students be awarded grants and fellowships and for their dissertation.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Shweta had a question about scholarships. So there is a small pool of scholarship funds for MS, MA, PhD, and PsyD programs. I think the really important question and the takeaway is that none of these are fully funded programs. So the largest award that we have for the PhD is about $50,000. And that is spread over the first 3 years. So most students should assume that they will not get an award. And even if you do, it's $50K. So the rest of it would be up to you to cover. So in full transparency, we do really encourage students to do a detailed budget and to think about, is this financially feasible for them to make it work? Because most, if you're not paying out of pocket, are going to be financing with federal loans. So that's a really important conversation to have before you're too late in that process. In terms of the scholarships for PhD, MS, and MA, there's no application. For the PsyD, there is an application, but that occurs after you've been admitted. So there's no need to worry about the applications for scholarship during the admissions process. They asked, how do we make an appointment with faculty to assess which program will be a fit for you? It actually wouldn't be with faculty, it would be with the admissions office. So you can email admissions@Palo Alto U. Erin, maybe you can put that in the chat for us. And someone like Erin or Tanya can make an appointment to meet with you, but we're happy to do that. Let's see, Shweta asked, can you share acceptance rates for MS, PhD, and PsyD? Yes, I don't have them quite finalized for this year yet. The MS is pretty high, so that's in the probably 80% range. PhD, I think this year is going to be around 25%. And the PsyD is what we consider highly selective, so they're in the 7 to 8% range. What else? I think that's what was in the chat. Any other questions about anything at all? Anything you're anxious about? Anything that doesn't make sense? Okay.